Well, pornography has a profound effect on the body. For example, there's a neurological impact on the brain. When you fantasize, you create neural pathways, and the more you think about a thought, the more you reinforce that neural pathway. So there is actually a physiological, neurological effect in the brain from the thoughts associated to pornography. Also, as you pointed out before, Richard, pornography causes you to release endorphins and enkephalins into the brain, and what you're really doing is you're becoming a drug addict. You're self-medicating, and part of the problem why it's so difficult to break this addiction is because there's a drug addiction aspect to it. Also, pornography has a profound effect on the central nervous system, particularly as it relates to your sexuality. In a healthy sexual relationship, the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system work together. The sympathetic nervous system turns us on, and the parasympathetic nervous system calms us down. And the parasympathetic nervous system is the one that has to be in control primarily in order to achieve full sexual release, because that's the nervous system that controls all the sphincters of our body, and those like the urethra, the vagina, the anus, all of that is controlled by the parasympathetic nervous system, and that is only in charge when we are feeling trusting. Mm-hmm. If you give sex a guilty meaning, an anxious meaning, an embarrassed meaning, or a stressful meaning, and guys who are looking at pornography are putting all of those meanings into the sexual experience that they are having with the picture or the website or the video or the show that they are observing. All of those things are going to block the parasympathetic nervous system. And what is going to happen then is that according to the way their nervous system is becoming configured, they will begin to link sex with stress, sex with fear, and sex with anxiety. And that's not just going to stay in their experience that they're having with this pornography. They're going to bring that into their marriage bed because they have conditioned their body to that kind of sexual response. So they're linking sex with fear. And this is one of the really subtle things. They might not be aware of that, but their spouse is going to pick that up. She's going to sense somehow that there's something about this that's very unsettling, that's very disquieting, and she may blame herself and think maybe she's just not, a sexual enough person. But it's not coming from her. It's stuff that his own central nervous system is sending out. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that happens in our soul, our mind, our will, and our emotions are what's in our soul. And in terms of our mind, the kinds of belief systems that we have, it takes as little as 6 one-hour exposures to pornography to change your belief systems. Now, that is not a lot of exposure, but as little as 6 one-hour exposures to soft-core pornography, men come to view faithfulness as less of a quality that they want to have in their own life. They come to have great dissatisfaction with their sexual partner. They come to trivialize the crime of rape. They also begin to believe that women deserve to be disrespected. States that have the highest readership of porn have the highest rates of domestic violence and rape. All of that is what happens in the mind when you begin to believe the lies that are attached to pornography.
So the idea that was put out in the 1970s that pornography was a victimless crime was a cruel, cruel joke, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a very cruel joke. And the biggest thing that they're not telling you is the economic impact that this addiction has. Because 40% of professional men who are involved with pornography are going to lose their jobs due to their involvement with pornography. Some of that is because of the effect it has on their mind, because you lose your ability to reason. When you're engaged in fantasy, you lose your ability to connect between action and reaction, cause and effect. Because when you're involved in fantasy, what happens is you create your own effects. You make the effect to be whatever you want it to be. But in real life, there's a natural law that's in operation. When I do A, B is going to happen. And the more you fantasize, the more you become disconnected from what I call common sense. And that affects your business judgment. It affects your ability to interact properly with other employees. It affects so many things that make you a valuable employee that 40% of the professionals who are involved with pornography are going to lose their jobs related to this problem. So, and also it affects your spirit. And our spirit is where our conscience dwells, where our ability to be intimate is, and where our intuition dwells. And our intuition is our ability to know right from wrong. And what happens when you get involved with pornography is you are involved in a boundaryless world, because in your fantasies, you are able to make somebody else do whatever you want them to do, which is a world without boundaries. And when you live in a world without boundaries, you live in a world where there is no right or wrong. Right and wrong is what you want to make it. Your conscience is there telling you, don't go there, and you're telling it to be quiet. Conscience is what allows us to recognize where our boundaries are and where other people's boundaries are. And if you don't know where your boundaries are, then it says in Proverbs you're like a city that's broken down and without walls.
Right.
And also, in the whole area of your spirit, it affects your ability to be intimate, because in order to be intimate, you have to live in truth. Because intimacy is about allowing someone to see all the way inside of you. And if you're hiding something from yourself or from them, then you're not going to allow yourself to open up and let somebody come in and see you.
Right.
So it affects all three parts of our being, and it's devastating. People don't realize that it completely robs you of the ability to enter into lasting, satisfying relationships. And if you understand how pornography grabs people, what it does is it has the unique ability to kind of go into the cracks of the soul and lob on to any place inside of you where you're really wounded in the area of relationships. I think that sometimes there are people who get involved in this sort of behavior, and their outward lives reflect it. You know, they're the kind of guy that everyone knows they're going to the clubs. Everyone knows they're looking at the magazines. But there are a whole lot of men out there, a whole lot of guys that go to Promise Keepers, and many, many pastors who, from the outside, their lives just look so great. In fact, probably one of the chief phrases that I hear to describe guys who have gotten involved with this stuff is he's a really nice guy. I hear that over and over again. Everything looks so terrific, but there's this hidden side to them that they don't show anybody. And even my husband's best friend who worked with him didn't know he was into this stuff.
I have described pornography as a subterranean electronic river of emotional and spiritual slime. It's like emotional and spiritual toxic waste with the internet. And, how many times have we heard this phrase, soft porn?
Yeah.
Soft porn always leads to hard porn. The way pornography works is that it does cause endorphins to be released in the brain. Right. And, you need to get a heavier and heavier jolt to get the same, charge. And so you have a progression from so-called soft-core porn to harder and harder core porn that will take place for a certain percentage of people who are exposed to this material. And so, and it really is it has heartbreaking results in terms of destroyed relationships and in terms of